What's going on, crypto fam, crypto goers? Thank you for tuning in. Episode 3 of the Stokesy and Stoner synopsis. Is it synopsis? Did we decide on that, Adam? What happened there?
Mate, we didn't get any votes. We had someone say every coin. What was it? Every coin, Stokesy and Stoney show. I think synopsis we have to avoid because it's too long a word and not everyone can spell it, probably myself included. So how about we go with show?
Stokesy and Stoner show. I think that's good.
Do you want to put your name first?
I don't really care, man. Why don't we interchange? We'll go week to week, we interchange. No, we can't do that because that'll hurt SEO.
Yeah, it'll confuse us. All right. We'll put this out one last time to the viewers. Can you just choose which name will go first? And if not, we'll go with alphabetical, would Stoke. That would actually put me first. S-T-O-K. S-T-O-N.
That sounds amazing. Well, guys, look, thank you for tuning in. Episode 3, really stoked to be here. I'm having a lot of fun here with Adam, and I think we're putting out some cool content that we're enjoying doing, and we appreciate your time and tuning in. Obviously, amazing this week. We've just had day after day after day of significant gains. Things are really starting to look extremely positive. We've got Bitcoin just broken 8,000 US, which is amazing. So today's episode, we've got jam-packed. We're going to talk about the Starbucks integration. We're going to talk about Binance hack. We're going to talk about Bitcoin side chains. It's going to be a lot of fun, very exciting. So just want to say thanks again for tuning in. Stick around and let's get into the show. So Stokesy, looking here at Coinmarketcap, I'm looking at a total market cap of $242.2 billion. I feel like it was just a few weeks ago and the market was sitting around 100 billion. Here we are with Bitcoin rocketing up over 8,000 US. What is going on? I mean, how amazing is it? But tell us what's happening.
Stoner, I'm so excited. I'm wearing a tie for tonight's shirt. I thought I'd dress up for this special occasion, or I didn't get time to change after work, but we'll just go with the latter. It is a good day in the markets. It's a good week in the markets. It's a good month in the markets. Everything is green. Ages ago, we spoke about a bull run, a bull leaving the gate. It was kind of slow. It's very dangerous to call a bull run, but look at these numbers. Going down the charts quickly, Bitcoin, this is in the last 24 hours alone, 17%, Ethereum, 13%, Bitcoin Cash, despite all the controversy, coming back at 15%, EOS, 14%, Binance Coin, which I'll talk about a bit later, 6.2% recovering. But the volumes is what I want to talk about. Check out these volumes. Just in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin alone, $34 billion. These volumes, Bo, are similar to what we saw early 2017 or mid to early 2017 when we had this massive turnover and trading. But what's different this time is that there's so much more infrastructure, so much more technology development, not just a speculation of buying a coin to hold and sell, but the actual applications behind many of these coins. I'm excited. I'm virtually crying tears of Satoshis.
Yeah, Adam, you're absolutely right. Starting off with the trading volumes, and here's the most incredible thing. So at the peak of the bull run in 2017, we were hitting volumes of around 50 to 60 billion. They were the very tops. Here we are 18 months later at the very beginning of what is looking to be a proper bull run. I would say we are well on a bull run, certainly a short-term bull run, and we're hitting over 100 billion in trading volume. So we're seeing figures that are blowing the last bull run completely out of the market, and we've only got a market cap of 240 billion. Last time we hit a market cap of 800 plus billion. So, I mean, we're still basically just 1/4 of where we hit before, and we're seeing these volumes through the roof. And like you said, we now have the infrastructure in place to facilitate, to scale the massive amounts of money that could come in if this keeps running. And this shows another point that I have spoken about on my channel before, is that in crypto, things happen so fast. So fast. Like at the drop of a hat, you can see 15, 20, 30% in 24 hours. And that's where it really kind of, it's hard, but you need to spend the time to be prepared for these things. So you're in and you get the most out of these runs when they do happen.
Yeah, look, we've forgotten this. So we talk about volatility. If you can just bring up, if you click on, let's look at some of these global charts. Looking at the global charts and the volumes, if I'm also looking at these volumes, those volume bars down the bottom in those global charts, well, the proof is in the pudding. The volume is more than in the peak of January 18 and even before. These volumes are huge. Now, we have forgotten, I think, how quickly these things move. So for so long, we've been almost become accustomed to this downward trend, and we forgot about how bull runs can actually work. Now, what I've I thought about this as I was getting ready for the video. I thought, everyone's in a good mood. There's lots of videos going out. It's really exciting. And let's face the facts. If we sell at the right time, you're making a lot of money. But I'm really not that excited about that. I mean, as silly as it sounds, I'm really reflecting, sure, money is great and there are big returns to be had. But I really realize that this is beyond just the fiscal returns. This is a part of us in the crypto community that has been part of us for so long. For some just months, others years, but in any case, it's been a big part of what we've seen for the future, not just for money, but for the freedom of speech. And if you're not into money or politics, then you might be a geek or an engineer who's into the development of all technologies around the world, whether that be financial markets, artificial intelligence, anything. It can all be built upon the blockchain. I'm excited. There's good things happening.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin really represents monetary sovereignty. And the further we get into tumultuous global markets and, whispers of a global recession on the cards, the more important and critical monetary sovereignty comes into play with hard currencies like Bitcoin that provide complete economic protection through holding of the private keys. And I think you raise a good point there about how, it's great to be making money and to be seeing the market going up, but for those of us that have grinded through this bear market, we're in it for something more than just the money, and it's that thing that catches us. It's this freedom, this liberty that Bitcoin really provides, and how it can reshape economies. And here's one thing I thought about the other day. I was sitting there thinking, it's fantastic seeing my portfolio go up, but what I'm actually equally, if not more happy about, is the Venezuelans that are using Bitcoin are seeing 15 to 20% per day for the past couple of weeks of their money going up in value rather than holding the bolivar and seeing it going down in value. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, these people that are using Bitcoin in this poor, depraved country that's going through all this turmoil are seeing their money go up. I mean, is that not what Bitcoin was made to do, And I can just imagine how elated some of those people over there must be.
Mate, good point. We're talking here, we are in a privileged first world, we get to buy more and be more comfortable, or at least break away from the banks at a minimum. In these countries with hyperinflation, we're talking about the ability to buy a loaf of bread in the evening as opposed to buying it in the morning. It's been that out of control. We're talking about the difference between weighing your money and counting your money. There's this, you see it over there, instead of counting the money, I'm not talking about coins, I'm talking about notes. They physically just weigh bucket loads of cash to figure out, how much is this worth? Now, on that, I just want to touch on altcoins. So these articles that have come out recently, it's FUD and nonsense, in my opinion, saying that all altcoins are dead and Bitcoin will be the only one that remains. And I'm like, come on, there is no doubt in my mind that with over, I think we've got about 3,000 altcoins at the moment, of course, thousands of them are going to collapse, without a doubt, no doubt whatsoever. But to say that only Bitcoin, as much as we love it, will be the only coin in the world is absolute nonsense. And I think Venezuela proves it with the adoption of Dash and other coins. And I don't know if you heard Cardano only recently, I think in the last 48 hours. Now, this is a big call. Cardano released a article. Hopkinson, is that his name? Charlie Hopkinson, is that
Charles
right?
Hoskinson.
Charles Hoskinson. That he said that Cardano will be more valuable than Bitcoin. Now, I don't know if that's true. It was true that he said
Charles,
it.
Big call.
Yeah, it's a huge call. It is an absolutely massive call. And you know what? It could be a bit of cockiness, a bit of overconfidence. But in any case, we love Cardano. And if it does beat Bitcoin, which I don't see how that could be mathematically possible, but even if it comes close, I think in business, if you aim for the moon and you only make it to just outside the stratosphere, then you're still a long way up. But if you only aim for a hill and you make it to the hill, then that's as far as you've got. So, good on you, Cardano. If you're aiming to beat Bitcoin, well, go for it. I don't think you can. I still love your technology and I still do love your coin, and you've done very well also in the last week. But check out the interview. It's quite big and it's quite interesting. Bo, moving forward, we've got so much to talk about. Talk to me about Starbucks. What's happening there?
Yeah, so we've just had in the past couple of days some news come out, and here's what I love about bull markets, right? News has an effect on the market. In a bear market, as we saw, positive news did nothing, absolutely nothing, and it was depressing. And we'd have this amazing news come out, and the market was just like blah 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 blah, just like a slug moving across a branch. Did not care. But now, right, as things are turning more positive, and we're starting to get some euphoria as the psyche of market participants and stakeholders starts to improve, we're starting to see some reactions. And we've had this huge one. Starbucks, Nordstrom and Whole Foods now accept Bitcoin. Just don't ask them. So here we have a photo of Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss here at Starbucks about to pay for some coffees with some Bitcoin. Hilarious meme here. You can see over here just the the faces of the two people behind the counter taking the Bitcoin. They clearly look like they didn't buy Bitcoin back when it was cheap. And they're filthy. they're filthy over it. But hey, look, this is the beginning, and it shows the slow but also rapid adoption in terms of as Bitcoin's value goes up and more people start to use it and buy it and spend it, more and more retailers are going to jump on board. And there's a reason why, right? So some people will say, these retailers are never going to accept Bitcoin. They're not going to do this and they're not going to do that. Well, a retailer is going to accept whatever there is demand for. If its consumers want to spend a certain currency that is legal and there's demand there for it, they're going to do it. And I remember hearing Trace Mayer, because I used to think to myself, well, these retailers are taking the volatility risk. Well, Trace covered in some podcasts a little while ago that what these retailers can do is they can actually hedge the risk of volatility by trading futures. So they actually trade futures on their holdings in addition to taking the Bitcoin themselves, and they'll cover the risk position by taking out longs and shorts. And there's products now like Ledger X, I believe it's called, minimum $10 million of Bitcoin just to open an account. I mean, this is for the big players, but this is what these companies can do to cover that volatility risk. They can actually leverage their position with longs and shorts, and thus covering the volatility. But what we're going to see over time, Adam, as more and more of these retailers start accepting Bitcoin and more people start using it, is that volatility is likely going to reduce.
Absolutely. It's a given. We can prove that the volatility is reducing as a percentage of its original value to how much it's shifting up and down. Now, the reality is that when the Winklevoss twins committed to this, they demonstrated to the global community that these two smart guys, they're rich, well-educated, for years have been invested in crypto. And all this news, as you were saying earlier, it's happening so quickly. And this is a great example of, to people who are just coming in the markets now are just like, they take they take crypto at Starbucks. But the background to that is a lot of smart people with a lot of money taking arguably a lot of risk, but a lot of well-calculated risk, are finally seeing the fruit of their labor. And you and I and everyone in the community who have stuck it out with these people, figuratively, literally, or just in the background, we too are going to start to see, well, we already are starting to reap some of these rewards.
And that's what I've always really preached, is playing the long game with this, is understanding the global disruptive nature of Bitcoin and playing the long game. Don't muck around with this. This is a scarce resource that is available right now I would argue even very cheap at the moment. This is going to be a resource that over time could become so rare, could become so valuable that owning just one Bitcoin could potentially change people's lives. Now, how long that takes, how it plays out, who knows? It might not happen too, but this is a resource that has such a big impact that literally holding one in, say, 20 years' time could be a life-changing thing. And so you're going to see more and more people start to get involved as we see this bull market go up. It's going to be very similar to last time. The difference is last time we had this like retail FOMO. Well, this time you're going to have institutional FOMO, and you've got the products like Barked, like Fidelity, like Gemini, these big players that are going to be able to facilitate this institutional FOMO. And remembering in the past 18 months, we've had a lot more regulatory clarity around Bitcoin's legal status than what we did during the last one. So a lot of these big players are going to be more comfortable just to slip, 50 mil, 100 mil into Bitcoin, because last time they weren't.
And if you also think on that point about the scarcity of it, here's a bit of sauna talk to my regular listeners. I was in the good old sauna last night after a hard workout, speaking to a couple of people, and sure as shit, people were already starting to talk about crypto again. And what they were asking was, well, how much do I need to own? And what people still don't get is that you don't need it. Of course, if you can get a full one, absolutely. And it has been so cheap, and it is relatively still cheap from what we could see in the future. If you can't buy a whole Bitcoin, just get $10, get $1. When people say, in fact, just today at work, I was speaking with a highly intelligent doctor of accounting or finance, so a PhD of something to do with numbers. And I actually said, I've got to break away because I've got to go shoot with Bo. And she goes, oh, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I've just got a YouTube channel where I'm talking crypto. And it was funny because this is a highly educated but older woman who said, you get that look. It's like, oh, crypto. And I'm like, yeah. And I said, oh, have you got any? And she's like, now remember, she's a PhD in accounting and finance. And she's basically said, no, I'll follow what Warren Buffett says. And I couldn't help to have a little chuckle. But yeah, I just sort of like, okay, and kept smiled, nodded, and just gently walked away. But I really don't, I don't try and push it as much anymore. But what else have the whole Starbucks family represented? Where else are they accepting crypto?
Look, as far as I know, we're seeing. So obviously we're seeing Starbucks, we're seeing Whole Foods. I believe Amazon, and you probably know more about this, but Amazon has got a stake in there as well. I think it's something about maybe one of the bigger companies that might own a massive share of some of these other companies is the one actually driving this. Adam, do you know a bit more about the Starbucks side?
Yeah, that's right. News just out today from the subsidiary companies of Amazon. It looks like they're going to start accepting crypto as well. So with the Lightning Network and with the infrastructure that's already in place, what's exciting about this is that the market already understands crypto. The physical infrastructure is already in place in the sense that they don't have to change POS, as in the point of sale systems. They can, in fact, just do a software upgrade. And by just doing the software upgrade means, well, you know what that means. It's essentially just like updating your phone. Yeah,
that's
and away you go.
Easy for merchants, easy for retailers.
Yeah, and again, as you said, and I can't agree with you anymore. And the reality is that this thing is going to go so quickly. Look, comparative to every other development of technology, you think how long it takes to implement most technologies. Crypto, the main argument with it was, of course, developing the technology, but just the acceptance, the sheer fact of what was money. Money is a language. And people are still believing that money is gold. Well, gold is a type of currency. It has zero fungibility or very low fungibility. But the money that we have now, the fiat currency, some people still think it's linked to gold. And they still think it's a scarce resource. Fiat is not scarce. Fiat is simply a printing machine where you just print this money. And in some instances, you don't even print it. You just put it on digital numbers saying that I've got it. And if anyone needs proof of this, just go to any country such as Venezuela with hyperinflation. And if you don't want to look at third world countries with hyperinflation, look at any nation, first world nation, with just standard inflation of 2.5% to sometimes a bit more, but it sits around the 2% mark. And that is proof that inflation of this unlimited so-called resource of money.
And that's what people don't understand too, Adam. You know, they hoard their money in a bank account, maybe getting 3 to 4, maybe 5% interest if they have a big wad of cash in there. Well, sorry, it's 5% minus 3% inflation.
Well said.
So you're getting 2%. Now, would you rather 2% a year, or would you rather put that money into Bitcoin and potentially get, what have we had since January, Adam? Over 100% now?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've had 50%, more than 50% in 30 days.
And so, that's obviously not guaranteed. Yeah. That's obviously not guaranteed. And we're not financial advisors, and we're not sitting here saying that's what's always going to happen. But it comes down to hardness of money. It comes down to soundness of money. Fiat currencies are easy money. It's because here in Australia, domestic banks have got the keys to the printing press. So credit cards are essentially a form of inflation because that money is being produced out of nowhere. When you go and get a mortgage for a house, that money is being printed because it's not coming from anywhere. The banks have the legal right to distribute money and then charge interest on it. So
it's only people in, like countries in Venezuela, unless we're so sheltered in this world. We're like, oh, yeah, she'll be right. We've got money and we just put it in the bank and it's safe. Now, where do you put your money? So with negative interest rates, which has actually been in the news lately, if you put your money under the mattress, it could be stolen, burnt, and deals with inflation anyway. If you put it into the bank, you've now got this new issue of negative interest rates where the bank will, beyond charging you the fees that they already charge you with, instead of giving you a positive return, even if that positive return, which is virtually nothing at the moment, say about 1%, if it's in a normal daily transactor, and just a few percent if you lock it in for a term deposit. It appears that the norm, and there's been so much talk about this, the norm within Western banks is going to be a standardized negative interest rate, which means you put your money in the bank and you literally have to pay the bank money to keep your money in their vaults so they can play with it. So you're almost forced to get it out of there. And we spoke about this in, I think, episode 1, where the Venezuelans were buying white goods, literally buying a washing machine to avoid inflation. And the other way you can do it is, of course, gold, silver, risk it with shares, maybe property. But, the property market in Australia, especially the units, they're really going to take a big hit, especially with the election coming up. But let's not get too political. But I want to talk about Binance and the Binance hack. So Binance is in the top 10. I think it's currently ranked at, let me see here.
Number 7.
And it crept right up. I think it made up to number 5 at one stage. So Binance is a hugely successful exchange that was hacked. And some have argued it was an inside job. Some have said that it was people who were working within the organization leaked these coins. I won't get too much into that part. I'll just give you the broad facts. 7,000 coins came out of Binance, and those 7,000 coins were worth a lot of money. What's that? 7,000 times 5,000? We're talking millions of dollars here. And what was interesting to me was that the two parts. First of all, some say that Binance wasn't giving enough information. I'm going to try and remain pretty neutral on this. When Binance was hacked, they did actually come straight out and say, this has happened. And that was quite impressive. So CZ was like, we've been hacked, we'll get back to you. And there was a 5-hour delay between when he first notified the market to when he came back and gave them an update. Some have said that was too long. Again, I'll try to remain neutral on that. But, 5 hours, to be fair, in crypto time is like dog years. So 5 hours is, make it up, we'll say 5 days. So for some people, it felt like too long to get back to the market. But the reality is he did inform the market. Now, the negative side of this was the suggestion, the arrogance. I couldn't believe he actually recommended this, or even for a second. He said that, well, if we roll back the blockchain, we can actually reverse these transactions. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. How dare you? And even the godfather, Andreas Antonopoulos, stepped in and said, no, this is not what we do. We don't bail you out when you can't secure your funds. Now, they had, allegedly, and through their own claims, they have money through, it's called a SAFU, where they can, SUFA, what's it called?
SAFU.
A side account where they can, SAFU, thank you, where they can insure this money. They should have enough money in there and ready to basically back up whatever they lost. And the reality is they can afford to put this money back into the market. And the suggestion to roll it back was hugely alarming to me, but not just to me. The markets reflected it. The market showed a drop in this coin over the last week, but in saying that, even with the big return over the last week, it has actually crept back and is sitting currently at number 7.
Yeah, I think you touched on some really good points there. So they were hacked, and according to what CZ said, it was a very sophisticated attack. It was very, very well planned. Looks like to me they were probably planning it for many months and had fished. And this is the interesting thing. I watched a couple of videos. Essentially, they had fished the account details of some whales on the platform. But the thing is, to be a whale on Binance, you have to provide a significant amount of KYC. It's not just the standard KYC. You have to go really over and above to prove who you are. So Binance can prove they're conducting due diligence for anti-money laundering. Now, this person who commented on, they kind of alluded to it being an inside job, which I actually don't agree with, but they said, any whale should have super advanced security procedures and stuff in place. I completely disagree with that. Just because someone has money does not mean that they're diligent themselves with their security. In fact, I would argue the opposite. I would argue people that have a lot of money are probably very busy and don't have the time or the technical competency to be putting in a lot of effort to ensure their data integrity and cleanliness. Now, touching on the SAFU, you're right, they did set up a specialized fund to fund this kind of things. Now, CZ had actually said that to cover this loss would be 2% of Binance's total funds. Now, I also balked at the comment about rolling back the Bitcoin blockchain. I mean, this is nothing to be nonchalant about. Rolling back the Bitcoin blockchain is, in essence, completely undermining the integrity of the entire system. You are taking the Bitcoin blockchain, the immutable permanent record of transactions that it has been since day one, and you're changing it by and what CZ had mentioned is potentially, because he's spoken to some miners about them contributing the hash power to essentially roll back the chain. It's like, why would you even entertain that? I mean, come on, man. But at the end of the day, this shows
the utter arrogance, of him to do. For me, I had no issue with the guy or the company until that. You know what? I would have even handled the hack, but for him to turn around and make this suggestion, hey, we could afford to pay for this, but would you mind if we just rolled back and undid everything that Bitcoin is through me just having a chat with some miners about this? He lost me forever on that. After that, I'm just like, I'm out.
Look, I'm going to come in to CZ's defense a little bit on this one, and putting myself in his shoes, going through a hack like that would be a pretty intense event for him and the exchange. He was up, I believe, for 28 hours in one go. I think it's less arrogant. I think it's more desperate for a solution, tired, maybe a little naive on the community's response. And CZ is very well tuned in with the community, actually. He's, for a CEO, he's very in tune with the community. I think this was maybe I'll call it a negligent oversight on his part, and something that he probably would have gone through with. Like I said, I don't think it's arrogance per se. I think it's more so he just wasn't thinking clearly and went down the wrong path a little bit too far.
Well, my friend, I'm happy to agree to disagree. I'll take fatigue. I'll even take stupidity, but I was just so thrown back by that. But moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see what does happen with Binance. It is a big exchange, and for the record, I've recommended this coin before, as many other people have as well. And it is quite a loved coin, but it's just, in my opinion, it's not the mistake. People make mistakes. We all do. It's the recovery. But you do raise a good point that, he was fatigued. And the reality is when you're up for that long and you're under that much pressure and you're talking about millions of dollars, perhaps in front of the camera, you'd start exploring ideas. But, dude, rolling back the blockchain. Come on. This is Bitcoin, baby. This is Bitcoin. Unacceptable. But what's happening in Microsoft? I hear there's good news in there as well.
Yeah, well, look, this is an interesting one, Adam, because Microsoft is launching a decentralized identity tool built on Bitcoin. Now, why I think it's interesting, actually, let me just go into the article a little bit first so people can understand some of the context. So just reading straight from the article here on CoinDesk, Microsoft is launching the first decentralized infrastructure implementation by a major tech company that is built directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. The open source project called Ion deals with the underlying mechanics of how networks talk to each other. For example, if you log on to Airbnb using Facebook, a protocol deals with the software that sends the personal information from your social profile to that external service provider. In this case, Ion handles the decentralized identifiers, which control the ability to prove you own the keys to this data. Now, why this is a big deal is because this is one of the first dApps being built on Bitcoin. Now, not a lot of people probably really know this, but Blockstream has been working hard in the background. I have covered this before on a couple of occasions, building out products that allow for the deployment of side chains built on blockchain. Now, these side chains are essentially fully customizable. They allow two-way pegs between the Bitcoin blockchain and the side chain. And because they're built on the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, you're getting the 10 years of decentralized trust that the Bitcoin blockchain is, the network effect. You're getting all these things. So from a development standpoint, it's kind of like the safest blockchain with the most integrity, right? You're also getting the protocol that's been worked on the most, that has the most refined source code. So this is an example of probably one of the first dApps that's going to be built on Bitcoin, and I foresee many more in the future. Now, could this be a disruptor to existing decentralized application protocols? You betcha. How user-friendly is Bitcoin development going to be for sidechains? Probably not very. I think Bitcoin's still pretty advanced. I think the software tools, as a non-developer, just from what I've seen from the outside, are still pretty advanced. But I think it's something to keep an eye out on, because with every dApp built on Bitcoin is adding more value to the underlying network, and thus more value to Bitcoin, the coin. So yeah, the thing is just really looking at these different protocol architectures and how this plays out. What I think, like I kind of touching on earlier, what I was saying is I think that the bigger companies, maybe with more network value, are going to be looking at the most trusted immutable blockchain, and that is Bitcoin by a huge factor. You've got Ethereum, which has the most dApps built on it, but Ethereum forked to resolve the DAO hack. Bitcoin has never done that. There's no company behind Bitcoin. There's no foundation behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin is this self-fulfilling prophecy of a beast of a thing that can't be controlled by anyone, and the network value is just growing exponentially all the time. So I think any company, if given the right tools to build applications on the most trusted network, it's going to be Bitcoin. So I think that's going to be a real positive thing for people that are big believers in Bitcoin, the maximalists, and even just investors long term as well.
Yeah, including logging on and identification to move forward. I heard Facebook was talking about doing confirmations on the Bitcoin blockchain, so that we're not talking about a crypto that you can use on Facebook, which is a different story in itself, but actually confirming your identity and logging on through the power of the Bitcoin blockchain, the decentralization. And the reality is as you said, no one owns it. It's not centralized. It's immutable. And the reality is it is a beast, and it's only going to grow. Now, speaking about growing, Bo, I wanted to talk about friends coming out of the woodwork. So the human side of crypto is that you probably have experienced it. I certainly have in the last 24 hours. People I haven't spoken to for 2 years have got to me and said, "Hey, are you still doing that Bitcoin thing?" And I found that the last time we had a bull run, at the peak of it, I spoke to all my friends about it, and they were kind of interested. And some people were, of course, just interested in making a quick buck. You can't really blame them for that. But most people, as soon as the market went stagnant and started to go down, I never heard from them again. They just disappeared. And now in the last few days, they've started to sort of creep back in, and I foresee my magical crystal ball that I'll start hearing from these people. And Crypto Lark he said it much better than me, as you're saying, you should expect to hear from all these people that you haven't heard from in the last 2 years saying, have you got out of that crypto thing? Are you still in Bitcoin? Can you tell me about it? And if they do come back into it, be very polite and just send them to your channel. Have you experienced that yet, my brother?
You know, funny you ask. I've had a couple of people just out of the woodworks actually get in touch with me. They haven't mentioned Bitcoin specifically, but at the peak of the bull run last time, man, it got bad. It got bad with just a lot of people. But you know, it was kind of my fault too. I mean, I was making YouTube videos and they were getting pretty popular at the time, and understandably, people want to talk to someone to learn a little bit more and have that face-to-face, but you get to the point where you're like, your time is really valuable and you're talking about it so much in your channel, you're investing yourself, you need that time away from it just to get some breathing space. And so I ended up just with people just, like you said, I'd just refer them to my channel. I'd say, just go and check out my course. And my course is now free, and I'll give that a plug while I'm here. If people want to go and do my course, they can just go down in the description. The beginner's course is completely free. So I would just say to people, look, if you want to learn, everything you need to know is in 4 hours of content on the course. Go and watch that. I'm not palming you off, but my time is valuable. I can't just sit here and school everyone on this thing. I've been talking about it now for, like, if they were to ask me now, I've been talking about this for 2 years. I've got 150 videos on YouTube. If you want to know about it, that's the place to go.
It's a good point about time. You know, certainly as I get older, it's the most precious commodity I realize I have.
It is.
You know, when you're younger, you don't realize it. You just, and you feel like you have so much more of it. But as the percentage of your life, time does go quicker. You know, if you're 5 years old, 1 year is 20% of your life. Whereas if you're 100 years old, 1 year is 1% of your life. You know, it does. As a proportion of your life, go quicker. And the reality is that I actually started my YouTube channel because someone said to me, what is your channel? And I was talking about crypto nonstop and was talking about mining. And it was actually one of my builders. So I was doing work out the back, building a second house. And he actually said, what's your channel? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm actually glad he did that, because that one builder pushed me into making my own channel. And as a result, I've been able to replicate what I do. And what we do is simply our conversation. So if you and I are in this room right now having a conversation, it's just you and me talking to one another. But then our subscribers can listen to it. And even years down the track, they can still gain this knowledge. So I really just want to push out to the crypto community. What will happen is that you'll have all these friends come in. If you've been talking about crypto for a while, you'll have friends come back into your life when the bull run starts. Some would argue it has started, and they'll say, can you tell me about this crypto? Now, of course, share whatever you want, talk about whatever you want, but really this is advice to our viewers, is don't give financial advice. So don't tell people to buy Bitcoin. And the reason why you don't want to do that is because once you start giving people financial advice, what typically happens is that they buy at the peak. So they wait till the very last minute. This is just human nature. They get right to the end of the FOMO when it's up at like last time around the $20,000 mark, Australian. I think it was about $24,000 Australian. And then they buy then, and then it dips, and they come back to you and say, oh, that thing you recommended was a scam. And you're like, well, hang on, I didn't actually recommend anything. I was just talking about something I was into. So please, everyone, be passionate about the subject. Be friendly to everyone who wants to talk about it, but really do not give anyone financial advice. And if they're really insistent on buying, which I think is great, always give the guidance of only invest what you can afford to lose. And remember, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. And even then you can get into micro Satoshi. So you can buy 1 cent worth of Bitcoin. And I say to anyone who goes, oh, I wish I could invest in crypto. I'm like, can you afford $1? Can you afford 10 cents? And if they're not prepared to invest 10 cents, this is the other filter I put on, Bo. If they're not prepared to invest 10 cents, they're not really this might sound a little bit of obnoxious or a bit of CZ in me. Here we go, saying if some people only want to be filthy rich, they don't want to build this wealth. So they're like, if I can't make $1 million, I don't want to make $1,000. And I've seen that time and time again when I've shared my wealth building techniques with my friends, and I say, these are the small steps that you take. And the amount of resistance I've got from that of just, no, I just want $1 million and I just want it now. In my opinion, they're kind of not worthy of the wealth.
Well, look, I think that's good advice, Adam. And you know, it really highlights, I think, the point of the amount of work, emotional and intellectual energy and time that goes into building wealth and gaining knowledge and becoming well versed in a certain topic. This isn't for the faint of heart. Like, getting into this to the point where you can make smart calls for the long term is not easy. Man, after 2 years and thousands of hours in this, I still feel like a noob. But the advantages I've gained is it's allowed me to make better strategic decisions to build wealth for me and my family, most importantly. And I couldn't agree with you more. Which is why, for the most part, I often refer people to my content on my course before I'm willing to sit down with them, because if they get through that and they come back to me, it's like, okay, well, you've passed phase one, and you're genuinely interested, but most don't.
Absolutely. You know what? That's a great filter. Great point there, Bo. If you're prepared to sit down and watch my 100 videos and go through the grind, you know, we've all gone through this as YouTubers, no matter what the channel. Your first videos are absolutely horrid, and over time they start to develop, but it's a grind. You're in there for the grind. And if, you know, I wouldn't expect my friends to watch every single video, you know, it's a bit of an ask, but there have been people who have been with me from day one that I've never even met, you know, and I acknowledge those people. To my YouTube subscribers who regularly comment, thank you, I acknowledge you, I'm grateful for your commitment, and I'm more likely to answer one of their questions than someone I haven't spoken to for 2 years. So speaking about knowing how the market works, or at least getting a feel for it, noting this isn't financial advice, let's check out our coin picks, my friend. So going back in the week that was, my pick, I'll go first, was Litecoin. Now it's probably unfair because, let's face it, all the coins have gone up. But if we look at the last 7, and I wasn't giving financial advice, I was just simply picking a coin that I liked, and a coin that I liked in particular over the last week was Litecoin. And had you liked that coin concurrently with me, you would have made, as of today, 18.63%. Bo, over to your coin.
Yeah, well, I went with Basic Attention Token that actually had a run. It actually had a run midweek, but it's pulled back. That coin has done 4.97% over 7 days. Oh, sorry, no, Basic Attention was...
That was the week before, brother.
That was the week before, actually. Yeah, I went with Lisk. Lisk has actually done 8%. 8% over 7 days. Not bad, but if you had gone with Bitcoin, you'd be looking at 36.15%.
Oh, ouch.
Bitcoin has been the winner. And speaking of coin picks, that's going to be my coin pick for this week, is Bitcoin. And the reason is I think Bitcoin's going through its phases, and what it generally does in these bull markets is you'll see Bitcoin rally. It'll pull back a bit. People will take profits at some point. When that point is, you don't know, but those profits are taken, and they generally go into altcoins. That's what we've seen in the past. However, we do have all these stable coins now. Maybe people will pull out into stable coins. So you could see some different behavior. But my coin pick for this week is going to be Bitcoin. Adam, over to you.
I think for me, it's been a tough one. I've been really thinking about Raven Coin. Raven Coin is this little liar down there, but I'll admit that's a high risk, high return, sitting at number 46. It had a big run up for a while, but that won't be my pick. My pick will be my old friend Stellar. I think Stellar is a little sleeper in there, and noting Stellar's association with IBM, although it is a competitor to, or could be arguably parallel to Microsoft, I think we're going to see some good returns in Stellar over the next week.
Well, that's it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next kind of couple of weeks. I think the market's just really shaking off its cobwebs, and I think it's gearing up for probably, hopefully, a good strong 6, if not 12 months ahead. If we take the past history as an example, as this has happened several times before. But mate, I think that's a good point to wrap this up. I'm busting. I really go to the toilet, so
You had too many beer. Yep.
We're going to wrap this up, guys. I just want to say a huge thanks to you as always for watching episode 3. I'm having so much fun doing YouTube again with these videos with Adam. Having an absolute ball. I really appreciate those who are watching the video. I know there's kind of a dedicated audience watching this. Guys, hugely appreciate you watching. Hugely appreciate the likes that you're giving us, the comments that you're giving us as well. It just feels great to be doing content again that I'm really having fun with. So thanks again. That's it from me. Adam, over to you for final words and close.
Bo, well said. Closing off today, Bitcoin at number 1, $8,146 US, 15% up in the last 24 hours. Thanks for listening. Happy investing. We'll talk to you next time.
Peace out, guys.